This Avalanche Safety Report is brought to you by Mountain TV. Watch Mountain TV anywhere with our free Roku, Apple TV, and Fire TV apps. Learn more at mtn-tv.com.
Mountain TV, and we have our weekly exclusive update with Brian and the Colorado Avalanche Information Center. A couple big storms in Colorado. We keep hearing about these atmospheric rivers. Brian, coming from, I guess, the Pacific over California, hitting Colorado. You got some cool maps to show us. Want to get right into it.
Yeah, the never-ending series of storms just keeps coming to our mountains, so it's great for snowfall. All the headlines from the atmospheric river, of course, on the national news, took place in California with widespread flooding, but it did bring heavy snowfall to our mountains. Both last weekend, we had a little break in this storm train, and now another atmospheric river for this week. So this is satellite imagery, which is showing lower level water vapor. And you can see in this image why they kind of call it an atmospheric river. So here back is Hawaii, just above the NOAA logo in the bottom left of the screen. So you can see these clouds, and then the greens are the deep, low level water vapor. And you can see it extends from Hawaii all the way through the Pacific, gets picked up by a low pressure system here, and then funneled into California. So this is what it looked like on Tuesday. And we saw, of course, a bunch of things in the national news about flooding and rain on snow events and avalanches in California. As we move a little further into Wednesday, here we are, and you can see the low pressure system is now tapped into this conveyor belt of moisture, spun it up into Colorado. And here we are right on the far edge of the screen. And so this was on Wednesday, and this brought heavy snowfall that started Wednesday afternoon, mainly for our westernmost mountains. This is another way of looking at it here. So this is an image of integrated vapor transport. So what we're looking at when we just say integrated vapor transport, we're looking at how much water vapor is in that conveyor belt in the atmosphere from essentially surface to the upper atmosphere, like where the jet stream and the planes fly at, say around 30,000 feet. And so those darker orange colors are the big core of the moisture. But you can see this is extending, as we showed in the last satellite imagery, all the way back into the Pacific. And it started to impact Colorado here on Wednesday. And you can see here it moves out by Thursday. And so we've got clearing conditions, but this did leave a ton of snow in its wake. So here's an animation of the snowfall that we started to see Wednesday and into Thursday morning. And you can see here that these reds are places that are over a foot of snow. These pinks down here in the Wolf Creek Pass area, these dark browns on the Grand Mesa, western portion of the Elk Mountains, and up into the Park Range are those areas that picked up more than about 2 feet of storm snow. So although it's clearing, and we're going to get a break in the snowfall for Thursday before we get lighter snowfall heading into the weekend, we want to remember that this is what happened during our last atmospheric loading event. This is avalanche activity by date. The atmospheric river really impacted us late on Friday last week. And you see we had a spike in avalanche activity during the main storm event, which occurred last Saturday. What's of note here is that this is the period where we had a decrease in avalanche activity, but it's a slow taper over the next few days after the loading event. And that's where we are as we move into this weekend. The weather is going to be better. It's not the main event of the storm snow, but dangerous avalanche conditions take some time to go away, particularly when we add, a foot or two of snow on top of our existing snowpack, which looks like this in many places. And so before the storm event that just rolled through Wednesday and into Thursday morning, we had a variety of weak layers, and many of which included some crusts, because we had that really warm period, if you remember from earlier in the week, like on Tuesday. So we had crusts and facet combinations that were buried anywhere from kind of 2 to 3 feet deep. And now we've got a new one just under the most recent storm snow. So we can expect avalanches now breaking either at the old snow, new snow interface, or even down on those older crust weak layer combinations that were buried by our last atmospheric river event. So what that means is we're looking at avalanches anywhere from kind of 2 to 4 feet thick, maybe just in the storm snow that's fallen over the last week. And here's what some of these might look like. This was an example of an avalanche triggered by 3 skiers. Again, 3 days after the last atmospheric river out in the western portion of the Elk Mountains, which caught 3 skiers. They deployed their airbags. One suffered a lower leg injury, but was able to self-evacuate. And this is the period we're going to be in this weekend. So although the sun's going to be out, the snow looks good, it's going to look like this. We're going to be able to trigger avalanches that look like this just in the storm
Right.
snow itself. And in those weaker snowpack areas, Scott, we still have deep weak layers a little bit further down. So if you get an avalanche moving in the surface, it could break into those deeper weak layers. So although avalanche conditions are not at their peak of danger, which took place essentially Wednesday night, that was a big loading event. The snowpack takes time to adjust to rapid change like that. So we want people to be pretty cautious as we move through the weekend, because just avalanches in the storm snow could be big enough to bury, kill, or injure a person.
Brian, and before we let you go, quick question for you. I know that, months ago, December, January, we were in a period where it was just cold, period. It was cold, 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 cold. Now, as you alluded to a moment ago, we've had some pretty warm days all of a sudden, and some cool nights and some warm days. How does that affect things in general? Is that kind of good for the danger? Is that bad for the danger? It looks like it really affects the levels where it breaks.
Yeah, it does. And so, we're really moving into more springtime conditions, but that does not mean safe. So this transition from, really cold winter storms into a period where we might see some warmer storms. When the sun comes out in mid to late March, it is potent here in Colorado. It's easy to get the snow surfaces wet pretty quickly with these warmer temperatures
Right.
and strong March sunshine. So what that does, Scott, is it develops melt freeze crusts. And then when you bury those melt freeze crusts, we can often get weak layers form right around those. So our focus on the big avalanche is moving from those drought layers from the earlier in the winter to now more complicated upper snowpack structure. And we're really worried about things breaking on either kind of near surface facet layers or weak layers around these newly forming crusts. And that's the kind of thing we're going to see right in the aftermath of a big atmospheric river event like what we saw on Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, Brian, great update. We really appreciate it. It's going to be busy again. We've had holidays. Now we have spring break, a lot of activity. We appreciate the update, and we look forward to chatting with you in a
You
couple more
bet.
days
We've
from
got
now.
a lot of out-of-state visitors, who have not been keeping track of Colorado snowpack all winter. The storm dropped different amounts in different areas, and we've got different structure depending on where you go. So please get your local avalanche forecast either through our CAIC mobile app or on our website at colorado.gov/avalanche.
Okay, Brian, thanks. Sounds great. We'll see you in a few days for another update.
Hey, that's great. Have a good weekend, Scott.
You too, Brian. Thanks.
You can always stay up to date with the latest forecast at colorado.gov/avalanche. Enjoy the backcountry and be sure to stay alert and safe out there.